Hey everyone, I'm back with an Epstein update. I want to start this episode by explaining what I'm doing with these segments. Right now, I'm going through the big names of those who show up in the files and explaining why they are in there. My episodes have not mentioned many crimes committed, and I do want to make it clear to my audience that horrific crimes were indeed committed. The files explicitly detail and provide evidence for grave sex crimes against minors, even young children, consistent with Epstein's convictions, Maxwell's conviction, and the broader investigations. Once I've finished going through the list of high profile people and their involvement, I will move on to covering Epstein's death and autopsy photos, conspiracy theories, many of which appear to be true, and then, if I can stomach it, I may go through the evidence of crimes. At this point, I'm not sure I can do that while also protecting my mental health, but if I do go through the evidence, it will need to be very general descriptions because I don't want to provide content that may excite pedophiles or cause mental harm to my listeners. We'll see what happens with all this. Moving on. Lawmakers began reviewing slightly less redacted copies of the already public files at a Department of Justice facility. This is for oversight purposes, and priority went to Judiciary Committee members with reports of heavy monitoring. The department sent a summary of redactions and a list of hundreds of politically exposed persons named in the files. This reaffirmed that all required documents were released, redactions were proper, and much of the material includes untrue and sensationalist claims. Today I'll cover John Podesta, Supreme Court Justice Katanji Brown Jackson, Lady Gaga, Larry Summers, and Les Wexner. I'll also give updates on those I covered in my previous episodes, and I do want to say I gathered notes for this episode last week, so I know I'm missing some discoveries this time around, but they will be included in the next episode, which will hopefully be out soon. First up today is John Podesta, who, despite having his name connected to Epstein all over the internet lately, is not listed in Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs, his contact list, any alleged client list, or as someone who visited Epstein's properties, flew on his plane, or participated in criminal activities. There is no evidence in the released Epstein documents, including flight manifests, contact books, emails, calendars, victim statements, or court filings from the Giuffre Maxwell case and DOJ releases, that Podesta ever met Epstein, communicated directly with him, or had any personal, professional, financial, or social connection to him. Some unofficial or aggregated online lists from earlier leaks have incorrectly added his name to Epstein's contact list, but official and verified versions do not. Podesta's name appears only in passing in a handful of third-party references. One email from Peter Mandelson to Epstein describes a Democratic think tank as headed by John Podesta, ex-Clinton guy. This is a casual, descriptive mention with no indication of any relationship or interaction. Epstein forwarded links to the 2016 WikiLeaks Podesta email dumps to various contacts shortly after their release, apparently sharing them as news or gossip. This shows Epstein distributed publicly available material, not evidence of a personal tie. No victim testimony depositions or legal documents in Epstein-related cases name Podesta, and no accusations of involvement in Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse, or network have been made against him in any credible source or filing. Rumors and claims persist because Podesta's name has been tied to Pizzagate. For those who don't know, Pizzagate originated in 2016 from misinterpretations of Podesta's hacked emails released by WikiLeaks, where mundane references to pizza were falsely claimed to be code for child abuse. This theory was thoroughly debunked by fact-checkers, law enforcement, and journalists. No evidence supported it, and it led to a real-world armed incident at Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria. The 2025-2026 Epstein file drops included many mentions of the word pizza, over 900 in some reports, mostly in unrelated contexts like actual food orders or casual emails. Online users revived Pizzagate claims, linking them to Podesta despite no connection in the documents. Some fringe sites or social media posts have falsely claimed Podesta is on the list or appears in flight logs or black books, often based on outdated or fabricated aggregations. Credible reporting consistently shows these are inaccurate. The pattern fits broader Epstein-related misinformation. His network included many elite figures, so names get dragged in via guilt by association speculation, but Podesta lacks any documented link. Next up is Supreme Court Justice Katanji Brown Jackson, who is not listed in Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs, his contact book, any alleged client list, or as an associate, visitor, or participant in his criminal activities. There is no evidence in the released Epstein documents that she ever met Epstein, communicated with him, flew on his plane, visited his properties, or had any personal or professional connection to him. The claim that Supreme Court Justice Katanji Brown Jackson is in the Epstein files appears to stem from misinformation and conspiracy theories circulating on social media, particularly following recent releases of Epstein related documents from early 2026. These files have reignited discussions around child trafficking allegations, including the 2016 Pizzagate conspiracy theory, which claimed a child sex ring was operating out of a Washington, D.C. pizzeria called Comet Ping Pong. In 2016, a man named Edgar Madison Welch drove from North Carolina to the pizzeria and fired shots inside while investigating the claims. No one was injured, but Welch was arrested and in 2017 sentenced to 4 years in prison by then U.S. District Judge Katanji Brown Jackson. The Epstein document releases, centered on similar themes of elite involvement in sex trafficking, have led some online users to draw tenuous connections between the two cases, falsely implying Jackson's judicial role in Pizzagate means she's implicated in or covering up Epstein-related matters. This is classic misinformation. A real fact, her sentencing Welch, gets distorted into false claims of direct involvement. On to Lady Gaga, who is also not listed in Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs, his famous little black book, or as any kind of client, associate, or participant in his criminal activities. There is no evidence that she ever met Epstein, flew on his plane, visited his properties, or had any direct personal or professional relationship with him. In the various batches of Epstein-related files released over the years, Lady Gaga's name does appear in a limited way in some of the more recent releases. Epstein or people in his circle mentioned her name in passing in emails or notes, and author and spiritual figure Deepak Chopra referred to her as a friend in one context and suggested inviting her to a dinner or event involving Epstein. There are references to Epstein expressing interest in her Born This Way Foundation, her charitable organization focused on mental health and youth empowerment, but she and her team reportedly ignored or declined any outreach. Epstein or associates attempted to contact her or get invited to events related to her 2013 album Art Pop through mutual connections like artist Jeff Koons, who collaborated with Gaga on the album's visual art and reportedly invited Epstein to a related party. These attempts were unsuccessful. Gaga did not respond or engage. These mentions are third-party references, Epstein's side trying to leverage or pursue a connection, rather than evidence of any actual interaction, meeting, or involvement on her part. In short, Lady Gaga's name shows up in a handful of minor, one-sided references in the Epstein documents, but nothing indicates she had any meaningful interaction with him or knowledge of his crimes. Moving on to Larry Summers, the prominent economist, former U.S. Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, former president of Harvard University from 2001 to 2006, and longtime Harvard professor. Summers had a documented and extended association with Jeffrey Epstein that has drawn intense scrutiny, with his ties to Epstein dating back to at least the late 1990s. Epstein made significant donations to Harvard during Summers' presidency, totaling around $9.1 million between 1998 and 2008, before Epstein's 2008 conviction. These funds supported various programs, though Harvard later reviewed and expressed regret over accepting them. Summers flew on Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, at least 4 times, according to publicly released flight logs, including once in 1998 from Aspen to Dulles while he was Deputy Treasury Secretary, once in 2004 and twice in 2005. One flight in 2005 was to St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, near Epstein's private island Little St. James, and reports indicate Summers and his then-new wife Elisa New visited the island during their honeymoon, with Ghislaine Maxwell also listed on the flight. After Epstein's 2008 guilty plea in Florida for soliciting prostitution from a minor, contact continued. Epstein visited Harvard's campus dozens of times post-conviction, had access to offices and research centers, and met with Summers multiple times, including more than a dozen documented meetings between 2013 and 2016. Recent releases reveal a closer, more personal relationship than previously known. The two exchanged hundreds of messages from at least 2013 through July 5, 2019, the day before Epstein's final arrest on federal sex trafficking charges. Topics included politics, current events, economics, and personal matters. Summers sought Epstein's advice on various issues, including philanthropic projects connected to his wife Elisa New's nonprofit, and Epstein was solicited for donations, with one email framing a gift as potentially a Harvard gift, despite the university's official cutoff. Most controversially, Summers, who is married and a father, confided in Epstein about pursuing a romantic interest in a woman he described as a mentee or economics mentor. Epstein positioned himself as Summers' wingman, offering dating advice in explicit, casual exchanges. These messages spanned late 2018 to mid 2019. Epstein occasionally connected Summers to other prominent figures during dinners and meetings, and Summers was named as a successor executor in a 2014 draft of Epstein's will, though not in the final version executed before Epstein's death in 2019. The 2025 document releases triggered major consequences. Summers issued statements expressing deep regret, calling the association a major error in judgment, and describing himself as deeply ashamed of continuing contact after Epstein's conviction. He stepped back from public commitments, resigned from the OpenAI board, left teaching duties at Harvard, and faced calls, including from Senator Elizabeth Warren, for Harvard to sever ties. Harvard reopened investigations into its Epstein connections, including Summers' involvement and those of other faculty or affiliates. Summers withdrew from various advisory roles, think tanks, and media contributions amid reputational damage. No criminal charges have been filed against Summers related to Epstein's crimes, and he has not been accused of involvement in Epstein's sex trafficking or abuse. Summers has consistently said he regrets the association and had no knowledge of Epstein's criminal activities beyond what became public. However, the persistence of contact well after Epstein's 2008 conviction, including personal confidences and travel, has fueled criticism that Summers and institutions like Harvard failed to adequately distance themselves. Last for today is Les Wexner, the billionaire founder of L Brands, which includes Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works. Wexner had a long and complex relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, with their association spanning from the late 1980s to at least 2007, primarily centered on financial management, but it also involved personal and business dealings that have drawn significant scrutiny, especially in light of Epstein's crimes. Wexner has publicly denounced Epstein's actions as abhorrent and claimed he was unaware of them while accusing Epstein of financial misconduct. Wexner and Epstein were introduced in the late 1980s through Wexner's financial advisor, Harold Levin. Levin reportedly warned Wexner that Epstein was untrustworthy, describing him as a rat, but Wexner disregarded the advice and hired Epstein anyway. Epstein, who had been building a career in finance despite lacking formal credentials, quickly became Wexner's primary money manager. By 1991, Wexner granted Epstein power of attorney, giving him broad control over Wexner's finances and affairs. Epstein was Wexner's main, and reportedly only, client for much of this period, managing billions in assets and helping propel Epstein from millionaire to ultra-wealthy status through fees and other benefits. Their ties extended beyond finance. Epstein served as a trustee for the Wexner Foundation, Wexner's charitable organization, and in the 1990s, they collaborated on relocating Southern Air Transport, a former CIA-linked airline, from Miami to Columbus, Ohio, where Wexner's businesses were based. This involved federal aid, and the airline later faced issues including a cocaine shipment discovery, though neither Wexner nor Epstein were implicated in wrongdoing. Epstein purchased Wexner's Manhattan townhouse, the Herbert N. Strauss House, in the mid-1990s after Wexner's marriage, and it became one of Epstein's notorious properties. Epstein also had access to Wexner's yacht, private jet, and Ohio estate. The relationship was described as unusually close, with Epstein handling Wexner's personal business affairs for decades. Some reports suggest it went beyond professional boundaries, with speculation in media like a Hulu docuseries, Victoria's Secret, Angels and Demons, that they may have had an intimate friendship or even romantic involvement, though this remains unsubstantiated and Wexner has not addressed it directly. In 2003, Wexner allegedly signed a lewd birthday card book given to Epstein, which included explicit content. Epstein's connection to Wexner provided him with credibility, access to elite circles, and resources that allegedly facilitated his criminal activities, including recruiting models from Wexner's brands like Abercrombie & Fitch and Victoria's Secret. Abuse survivors and investigations have highlighted how Wexner's wealth and influence indirectly enabled Epstein, though Wexner has denied any knowledge or involvement in Epstein's sex trafficking. Wexner claimed he severed ties with Epstein in 2007, shortly after Epstein faced initial charges for soliciting prostitution from a minor. However, newly released documents show they communicated via email as late as 2008. Wexner later accused Epstein of stealing or misappropriating several $100 million from him, which he discovered around the time of their split. Despite being litigious, Wexner did not pursue legal action against Epstein for the alleged theft. In a 2019 letter, Wexner expressed embarrassment over the association, calling Epstein sick, cunning, and depraved. An undated draft letter from Epstein to Wexner, found in recent document releases, hinted at shared secrets, gang stuff over 15 years, and mutual debts, suggesting Epstein sought leverage to rekindle the relationship. A 2019 FBI email labeled Wexner as a possible co-conspirator, though he was never charged and cooperated with authorities, who confirmed he was neither a target nor conspirator. Protests and calls for Wexner's testimony in related cases, like the Ohio State University abuse scandal involving Dr. Richard Strauss, have cited his Epstein ties. Overall, while Wexner has maintained he was a victim of Epstein's deceit, the relationship's opacity has fueled ongoing questions about influence, complicity, and accountability. No criminal charges have been filed against Wexner related to Epstein's activities, but I do want to point out that there is more to come regarding Wexner in future episodes. Now it's time to do an update on new information that has come out since my previous episodes. Sometimes I get on a roll cleaning or gardening, and I need a boost but don't have time for a meal. Big Fork Brand's pork jerky is the perfect choice to keep my momentum, offering high-protein snacks for on-the-go energy boosts. Not only do they offer pork jerky, but they also make pork sticks, bacon sausage, bacon hot dogs, and burger and hot dog sauces. Products come in a variety of delicious flavors, including Thai green curry and maple and brown sugar for the meat options, and gangster and Chicago fire for the sauces. I personally think the original flavor of the pork jerky hits just right after tackling a big chore. It's a little salty and very flavorful. My discount code gives you 20% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit bigforkbrands.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's J-A-D-E, at checkout. Are you looking for a gift for a music lover, or maybe some apparel to show off your quirky side? Old Glory has you covered. With over 300,000 officially licensed items covering music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture, you're guaranteed to find the perfect item. They even have seasonal gear. My husband enjoys the Beatles and Led Zeppelin apparel, and I love the Billy Idol apparel. I even found items for my fellow plant enthusiasts. This family-owned superstore is known for their quality and customer service, offers free standard shipping on all orders, and orders are shipped the same day you purchase. My discount code gives you 15% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit oldglory.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's J-A-D-E, at checkout. Looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant, packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Harnessing the best nature has to offer, Zevo Life nourishes your body while driving your performance, vitality, and overall well-being. Each serving is a concentrated source of clean, well-balanced nutrition designed to support modern lifestyles, and just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. It's no wonder that it's receiving rave 5-star reviews. Step into a healthier future with a 30% discount and a 30-day risk-free guarantee by visiting zivo.life and using my promo code. To support my show and to receive 30% off your entire order, enter in my promo code JADE, that's J-A-D-E, at checkout. First up is the man formerly known as Prince Andrew. Emails in the file suggest Andrew forwarded sensitive reports from his 2010 Southeast Asia trade envoy trip to Epstein, which has intensified calls for a full probe into potential misconduct in public affairs. Thames Valley Police confirmed they're assessing this in discussions with the Crown Prosecution Service, and King Charles III stated the royal family is ready to support police inquiries. The UK's Director of Public Prosecutions emphasized nobody is above the law, signaling confidence in examining any evidence. New reporting highlights emails where Andrew asked Epstein for help securing $200 million to finance fuel supplies for the U.S. military via a vendor, which ties into broader claims of Andrews using Epstein for access to wealthy contacts or deals during and after his trade rule from 2001 to 2011. Andrew reportedly met a model during a China trip, with his aide, David Stern, emailing photos and details to Epstein, and there is renewed pressure from U.S. lawmakers and Virginia Giuffre's family for Andrew to testify before U.S. committees about his Epstein ties. He ignored a prior November 2025 deadline, and non-response has fueled criticism. There are some false or misleading stories, which I did feel would be important to include from now on, especially for those in the Epstein files that are not guilty of wrongdoing. Even though it's clear Andrew did commit wrongdoing, I want to be fair. Anyways, Virginia Giuffre's unpublished memoir, The Billionaire's Playboy Club, described a detailed incident involving horseback riding, a candlelit bath, and sexual activity with Prince Andrew at the ranch. However, Giuffre admitted in a 2016 deposition that the event never happened and she never met Prince Andrew in New Mexico. Emails and communications show the memoir was initially pitched as 100% fact, but later reframed as fictionalized by her lawyers to avoid credibility issues in court. This led to the memoir being excluded as evidence in her lawsuit against Andrew. The photo of Andrew with Giuffre is real, though, as well as all other activities I covered in previous episodes. There is also the false claim out there that the files prove he tortured and killed a girl or was an accessory to her murder, based on a 2020 tip alleging he tortured a trafficked victim who was promised modeling work but sold into sex slavery. This is an unsubstantiated, anonymous 2020 tip in the files. Authorities never corroborated it, so no charges resulted. There is nothing new on Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, but there is a false claim out there that a 2011 email from Ferguson to Epstein proves Epstein had a secret baby boy, implying a hidden child Ferguson congratulated him on. Jeffrey Epstein's brother Mark told outlets that the email doesn't make any sense and that it wasn't directed at Jeffrey, possibly the email was misaddressed to someone else. No birth records, photos, or other evidence support a child, so it's unverified speculation, not proof of a child. I'd like to point out the obvious. Men don't give birth to their offspring and, sadly, sometimes father children and have nothing to do with them. Next up are Bill and Hillary Clinton. There is nothing new to discuss in regards to the Clintons for now, but I expect there will be a lot to cover when they testify before the House Oversight Committee at the end of the month. There are, however, some false claims and rumors to debunk. A myth out there is that both Clintons frequented Epstein's island and flew on his plane, but there is no evidence of that in the flight logs. Flight logs show that Hillary never flew on the Lolita Express, and Bill did several times, but never visited the island. There's also no evidence to show that the Clintons were involved in Epstein's death or that Hillary received donations from Epstein for the Clinton Foundation. A 2015 email invited Epstein to a fundraiser for Hillary, but no donation or involvement occurred, and the foundation did receive a small donation from an Epstein-linked charity in 2006, but that is tied to Bill, not Hillary. There are many photos and videos out there that have been edited, misattributed, or from unrelated contexts that have been twisted to look as though Hillary was involved in Epstein. I do want to take this time to point out that I'm simply relaying information regarding the evidence and that I've chosen to remove my opinion from these episodes so that you can make your mind up yourself. On to Bill Gates. Nothing new has been revealed, but the common false claim out there is that the files prove Gates had sex with Russian girls, contracted an STD, tried to secretly medicate Melinda Gates, or engaged in widespread illicit affairs and illegal acts. These claims stem from two 2013 draft emails Epstein wrote to himself, possibly never sent, venting frustration after Gates ended contact. No evidence corroborates him, no photos, logs, witnesses, or victim statements. Gates called them absolutely absurd and completely false, and he reiterated in an interview earlier this month that they were false from a disgruntled liar. Next up is President Trump. A 2019 FBI interview summary with former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reeder has gained traction recently. In it, Reeder described a 2006 phone call from Trump alerting police to Epstein's behavior, saying everyone has known he's been doing this and thanking them for investigating. Trump reportedly called early in the probe and mentioned throwing Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. No new photos, videos, victim accusations, or communications directly implicating Trump in wrongdoing have surfaced. The official DOJ position remains no credible evidence for prosecutions, many allegations unsubstantiated or fake, and the review is complete. Switching to Elon Musk. No entirely new public document releases or major bombshells have been dropped since mid-February, but recent reporting has highlighted previously noted material with fresh framing, including Epstein's apparent efforts to get closer to Elon via his brother Kimball Musk. Epstein apparently tried to honey trap or make leverage attempts via Kimball, with emails showing Epstein and associates handpicked and coordinated a woman to date or connect romantically with Kimball Musk, starting around 2012 and lasting about 6 months. Epstein monitored the relationship closely, directed her travel and involvement, and used it to arrange social access, including a lunch at his Manhattan home with Kimball, Elon, and Elon's then-wife Tallulah Riley. Post-lunch, Epstein reportedly told others he and Elon were talking all the time. This is framed as Epstein trying to ingratiate himself with Elon, then newly prominent as a billionaire, indirectly, though no evidence shows success or wrongdoing by Elon or Kimball. Kimball has denied deeper ties, stating his only meeting with Epstein was a daytime office visit in New York and he never went to the island. Now on to Howard Lutnick, who recently testified before the Senate Appropriations Committee. The discussion was originally supposed to be on broadband and funding, but was dominated by Epstein questions. Lutnick confirmed visiting Epstein's private island, Little St. James, in December 2012 for lunch during a family yacht vacation with his wife Allison, their 4 children, nannies, and another family. He described it as brief, for an hour or lunch only, innocent and unrelated to Epstein's activities. He defended it as a neighborly stop while passing by. Lutnick acknowledged 2 post-2008 meetings with Epstein, the 2012 island lunch, and a roughly 1-hour engagement at Epstein's New York City home in 2011. He downplayed overall contact, claiming about 10 emails total over 14 years, no personal relationship, and no knowledge of crimes. This directly contradicted his 2025 podcast claims, where he vowed after a 2005 tour of Epstein's home to never be in the room with that disgusting person again, and spent 0 time with him. Bipartisan pressure mounted. Democrats and some Republicans demanded resignation, citing apparent ties and misleading statements about cutting ties in 2005. Concerns raised about impact on GOP midterms, Wall Street perceptions, and cabinet credibility. The House Oversight Committee considered subpoenaing Lutnick for further testimony, but the White House stands by Lutnick and is not pushing resignation. My last update for today is a false claim to address. There are viral photos that show a young Zohran Mamdani posing with Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Bill Clinton, Jeff Bezos, or others, and the implication is that Epstein is Mamdani's biological father or that Mamdani's mother, Myra Nair, had deep criminal ties. However, these photos are AI-generated, originating from parody accounts. That's all I have for now. Future episodes will cover Brad Karp, David McKillips, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Michael Wolff, British politician Peter Mandelson, New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch, filmmaker Woody Allen, Rihanna, Obama, Tom Hanks, former U.S. Attorney William Barr, Stacey Plaskett, Mick Jagger, Brett Ratner, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, Harvey Weinstein, Peter Thiel, Jake Lang, Whoopi Goldberg, Sylvia Gearson, Stephen Hawking, Thorban Jagland, Reid Hoffman, and Catherine Rumler. Of course, just because I've listed these people does not mean I'm accusing them of wrongdoing. If I've left a name off of this list that you think should be covered, please let me know in the comments wherever you follow me. Have a great day!